This
due
conference will now be recorded.
due to some reasons. Like day before yesterday class, do you have any questions? Like, have you gone through with abstract class interface, these concepts, and any queries that you have in those? Okay. Okay. If not, we'll be proceeding with the today's session. Hope you can able to see the screen, right? Uh, Hello. Do you hear me actually? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Okay. And you can able to see the screen, right? Fine.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I'll just going a small recap because yesterday we had a breakage, right? So what we discussed in day before yesterday class is nothing but access specifiers, like we have class level and even at the like method level access specifiers, and there are like two uh, there are like a two sorry for a private are protected are nothing but access specifiers that you cannot apply it at a class level. So why? Because as I told, an access specifier is something where it will give an accessibility where you can able to do that access, right? So for example, what is the usage of declaring a class is nothing but it should be useful, and for that you need to be creating an object. So if you make that a class as a private access specifier, it cannot be accessible. So it feels that convention of the usage of the class, right? So that is the reason private cannot be private and protected cannot be applied at a class level. So if I am trying to write a private as an access specifier for a class, it will show me an error. So you can the illegal access specifier only public and default these things are allowed for a class, and abstract these are also allowed. And we have seen what is an abstract, right? And I think I'm just it's getting recorded. And if you see why this method cannot be accessible, because this m3 method which is present in class B, right? If you go to class B, you can see that why it is accessible. Okay, because the parameters are different, so that is the reason. It is having two parameters, but you're trying to pass with one parameter. Okay, so if you go here, the string and integer int are the parameters, right? So I should be passing a string, comma int. If I'm trying to access that M4 method, it will show an error. Even you cannot see that M4 method also, and it is showing me an error because the accessibility for this M4 is private. So it is within the class. So you cannot access the method outside the class. Oh, okay. And we have seen what is an abstract class. So and a class which is declared within a keyword called abstract, you call that class as an abstract class. And an abstract class can have a normal methods as well as an abstract methods. What is an abstract method? And a method which is declared with an abstract keyword. But for an abstract class, it is not the good practice to have all the normal methods. For example, if you declare a class as an abstract class, at least it should have one abstract method. It will not throw any error, but it is not the good practice, because if you do not want to declare any abstract method in a class, you can declare it as a normal class. If you are declaring it in an abstract class, you should be having one abstract method. If not, also your compiler will not throw an error. But the vice versa is your compiler will throw an error. What is the meaning of an vice versa? For a normal class, I cannot able to declare in a normal class. I cannot declare an abstract method. If you see, this is a normal class because I don't have any abstract keyword, right? So if I'm trying to declare an abstract method, for sure it will throw him an error. I think you understood what is an abstract method, right? A method without a body, I can call it as an abstract method. So this method is not having any body, right? So generally, a method is something where the functionality should be defined, right? So it is meant to do some action. So if an abstract method where you do not have any body, right, is this an abstract method? So then who is responsible for writing the logic for this particular method? Can someone? We discussed it, right? So who is responsible for writing the logic for this M4 method? If it isn't, if you declare it in abstract class,
Parent.
child or child, not parent, exact. It's a child. So you see, this ex abstract is nothing but my parent, right? So which is having two abstract methods, M3 and M4. So the class which extends this abstract class will become as a child, right? So I call abstract ex which extends this ex abstract. So now this right side is a parent and this left one is a child one. So the child is responsible for doing the the implementation of this particular method. So if you see what are the abstract methods, I have M3 and M4. So that is a reason when you do the extends, right? An abstract class extends this abstract ex child extends this ex abstract. So it is mandatory to do that overriding. I think we saw what is overriding, right? Can someone tell what is overriding? If possible? If it is an interaction session, it will be good, right? So like even you don't get like feel bored or I'm only the one who talks, like it will get bored or you will not get an interest. So that is the reason even I'm trying to ask the questions. If you don't know, also please try to answer whatever the if you tell wrong answer, nothing happens. But try to if you whatever the knowledge that you have, please try to tell it. Okay. So anyone have an idea what is overriding? Not because we discussed this in the last class. Overriding. I just told in the last, right? There is a two concepts like you have overriding and overloading. Okay. No
Like
one?
it overrides the method from the parent.
Yes. Sorry, someone is trying. Can you please repeat it? Supriya.
I mean, it
Yes.
overrides the method from the parent class. I mean, but that we mentioned in the parent, it overrides. Is that?
Ah, yes. Is that's what like overriding is something from parent you do it, but I'm asking what you mean by overriding. Exactly what you tell is fine, but I'm asking what not the definition, what you call it.
Baten
I
sarji
saved.
ichol onye yemega attend.
Can someone please mute it? If okay. Why? Because as I told you, right, if you do not understand this concept, it is difficult. If I go for other topics also, you'll not be getting. If I tell what is an interface, and if you do not understand what is overriding, like telling that interface concept is useless. So that is a reason. So please, if you are not away, attended the previous session also, what happens when you come to the session, please try to attend the previous all the sessions and come, because if you come directly and attend in this session, for sure you're not going to get the things. Okay. So whatever someone told is fine. Like overriding is something like you do it in the child and parent, but the I just what kind of definition I was expecting is not like you write with the same name and the same signature. Right. So as I told, signature is can be return type, can be the number of parameters, whatever you can call that can be the signature. All that can be the signature. So if you see in the CFs abstract, you have M3 method, right? So the return type is void and the name of the method is M3 and you do not have any parameters for the method. So when you do this overriding, the same follows. Abstract TX child. So you are doing an overriding. You see that method name is same, signature is same, all the same, right? So if I'm trying to write a parameter, it is not an overriding, right? It is asking to remove this overriding annotation as well. Okay, it treats it as a different method. It is not your M3 method. So that is the reason it is asking you to override that M3 method, which is with the same signature. Okay. So what you call this M3 over here and M3 over here. This is nothing but overloading that you do it in a same class where you have same name but different signature. Here it has one parameter, it has zero parameter. Okay, that is nothing but your overloading that you do it in the same class. Overriding that you do with the child and parent. Same name, same signature. Overloading, same name, different signature. Signature can be number of parameters, type of the parameters, order of the parameter, or return type. Anything can be your signature. Okay, this is what we have seen. And this is what about abstract class and like abstract methods. So similarly, as an abstract class, there is a concept called interface. So in Java. So this is also very important concept. It's one of the oops, like to understand this encapsulation. This is one of the thing, the interface. So here, what is an interface? Interface is something where you have only the abstract methods. So for example, in an abstract class, what you are having in a normal methods as well, right? So but in case of interface, it is not allowed to write a normal methods. Whatever the methods that you declared in interface are abstract methods. The syntax of declaring an interface is interface and the name of the interface and open parenthesis and close parenthesis. So here I can just write an interface keyword with an interface, and I can just take ABC as nothing but the interface. This is the name of the interface, and open parenthesis and close parenthesis. And as a normal class can, abstract class can have a normal methods, but in case of interface, if you are trying to write the normal methods, your compiler is going to throw in a method, throw an error. So whatever the method, whatever the thing that you write in interface are nothing but your abstract methods. Okay, so what are all the methods? Like I cannot write a normal methods. Only I can write only the abstract methods in an interface. So so now you get an query, right? How for a class, the child class gets overridden, and it is the child class is responsible for doing the implementation. In case of interface, who is responsible? Is nothing but the class that implements the interface is responsible. For an abstract class, you do an extends. For interface, you do an implements. For example, I can say class C implements. This is also a keyword that you used for which is used for interface. Implements is a keyword. Implements ABC. So now this C is responsible of overriding the methods which are present in interface ABC. So if interface ABC is having 10 classes, sorry, 10 methods, this C is responsible for overriding all the 10 methods. So it is similar concept of abstract class, but the like you can see that little difference, right? Here it will throw an error. because interface cannot contain the abstract methods. Only the methods in interface are only the abstract methods. Okay, who is responsible for providing the logic for this abstract methods? The class that implements that interface is responsible for providing the logic for this interface. Sorry, logic for this abstract methods. Is this point clear? Okay, then I go. So you here like how you have an option to create a class. Similarly, you have an option. Eclipse provides an option to create an interface. So I can just have an interface, something interface ABC. So this is my interface. As I told, the syntax is right, interface and these things. And a interface can have a normal methods.
No.
No, right? So if I'm trying to write it, this is a normal method with a body, right? So you can see it is throwing me an error. Abstract methods do not specify a body. By default, whatever you write, it is your compiler is treating it as an abstract. So I cannot write a method with body. So, and if I declare the abstract keyword or I do not declare, it does not make any difference. Why? Because all the methods in interface are abstract. So that is the reason if you do not declare or declare, it does not make any difference, right? M2 and M1 are abstract methods, but I have declared abstract keyword here. I have not declared, but by default, your compiler treats every method in this interface are public abstract methods. Okay, it is not needed you to specify that particular method as an abstract method, but this condition fails in case of your abstract class, right? So you see this ex is an abstract class, right? So if I write any method void m6 and if I do not declare abstract keyword, it throws me an error, ask me to write the abstract keyword or have a implementation. Why? Because it allows two things, right? Your abstract class will allow abstract methods as well as normal methods, right? So that is the reason your compiler wants you to specify that abstract keyword. But in this case, in case of interface, it is not needed because you cannot have a normal methods. What the method that you write in interface, it is a abstract method. So that is the reason it is not needed to specify that keyword. And I have two abstract methods. And as I told, who is responsible for this implementing? The class that implements, right? So I'll create a class or here itself. Okay, you can write it. You see, and so you can, you know why that error is, right? Because it need to override that unimplemented methods. You have an interface ABC and this is get implemented by BC is a class which implements this. So if I'm not implementing one of the method also, it will throw me an error. Why? Because it has two methods. So it is mandatory to override that two methods with the same name and same class. Sorry, same name and same signature. Is this clear?
Yeah, I have a doubt here, Surya.
Ah, yes,
Like,
yes,
yeah, so we are implementing here whatever the methods which we have written, we are writing in class file, right? For that
yes.
particular method.
Mm, yes.
Okay, and as you said that void M6 is in which Java class?
M6 where I have written
Somewhere you were saying that M6 cannot be written like uh,
in example here, or I didn't get you where I'm saying that M6.
in the Java file. Did you write anything? If I'm wrong, if I miss anything, did you write
Like as
any method as M6?
maybe I just like instead of writing the method exact names, I may be written the M6, but I have written it for some example only, and I have just
Okay,
removed it.
now
Mm,
we are 1 second. Abstract child,
mm, mm,
abstract child extends example abstract.
mm.
Three,
So this is your
But,
uh, this is a parent class which acts which has your abstract methods.
okay, fine.
Is this concept
Okay,
clear, right? Here also,
yeah,
you have two abstract methods, M3 and M5. So the class which implements, right? Sorry, the class which extends. In case of class, you do an extends. This abstract EX extends this EX abstract, right? So it need to override this all these two abstract methods.
okay,
Mm.
got it,
It can
Sridhar.
have its own method, but overriding that abstract methods is mandatory.
Yeah, it is clear now.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Uh, where with this? Sorry, you are with ABC, right? So I have M1 and M2 abstract methods, right? And I can have one more class also, right? I can have a class this, and I can have a class called some BA something. This also can able to implement your ABC. Okay, you know why this error? The same, right? It need to add that unimplemented methods. That is your M2 and M3. Okay, so so that's what, like if your class interface can be implemented by 10 classes or 20 classes, all that classes need to have that implemented methods. Okay, so I'm just writing inside BC, inside M2 of BC class, inside M1 of BC class, inside M1 BA. Okay, so now I have implemented that method and I am just overriding all that, right? And now I'll have a class test where I can able to create that objects. Class test, and I have a main method. Okay. Can someone tell me if you know, like, can I create an object of an interface? If anyone knows,
I think yes.
no, you cannot
Hmm.
create an object of an interface. So AB is an interface, right? I'll tell the reason also. For example, I'm trying to create an object for this interface. So it throws me an error. So cannot do that instantiation. It means object creation cannot be done for interface. So generally, why you create an object? To do that implementation, right? So for example, I have an employee object, and employee have an ID and a variables employee name, and to give the values for them, right? And to call the non-static methods in it, right? So when it comes to case, in case of interface, does you have any non-static any kind of implemented methods? No, right? So it is, you do not have any implemented methods, and you do not have any variable variables where it can be used, right? So for sure this methods need to be implemented by some other class, right? So it is, in that case, it is pointless to create an object of an interface. So that is the reason that they have not allowed to creating an object of an interface. So then which then how, what can I do? So if I cannot able to create an object of interface, what object I can create? I can create an object of the class that implements the interface, right? So if you see, this is a BC class which implements your ABC. There is a BA class which implements your ABC. For both of this, I can able to create an object, right? So BC, new BC. Okay. And I can just call b dot m2 with the reference dot. I am just calling this m2 method which is present in the BC class. Similarly, what object I can create? I can create an object of the BA class. Reference variable BA dot m2. Okay. So if I run, can you tell me what will be the output? It is the inside a BA class object, and inside whatever the object that I create, that output I'll be able to commit, right? I need to be running the test class. So you can say inside BC of M2 of BC and M2 of BA. So I'm just created that object and just executed that particular methods. Okay. So you call this as a static binding. I'll tell you why this is nothing but a static binding. You have one concept called dynamic binding or dynamic polymorphism. I can call that as a dynamic binding or a dynamic polymorphism. Just let you know why. So assume that I have created an object of BC. Can I able to hold with the BA? Can I do like that? BA equals to new BC.
Yes, we can
What I'm
do.
doing? Why? How can you do? what is the relationship between your BA and BC? They are nothing but both are childs of your abstract class,
Intensive.
Parent
Yeah.
class, ABC.
Okay.
ABC. But there is no direct relationship, right? So you cannot do. You cannot, for example, I created a BA object, sorry, BA reference, and I'm trying to create BC object, and you can see there is an error, right? It is saying that type mismatch. The same wise, if I create an object of BA, and by using BC as a reference, so it will give me the same error.
Okay.
Right? Both ways are not possible. So then, what is a possible way? I can create an object of BC, but I can make that hold by the parent. What do you mean by the parent? Who is a parent of your BC? A class which implements is nothing but this
ABC.
BC is nothing but is a child, and ABC is nothing but your parent. Okay. For BC, for BA, your ABC is your parent, right? So I can just hold ABC equals to new, right? This I can call it as dynamic binding or dynamic polymorphism. And I can call ABC dot M2 method. Okay. Now you have M2 method in both the classes, right? You have M2 method in, so please don't confuse with the names. I was very bad in giving the names. So that is the reason I am just giving it ABC, BC. Please try to not to be confused. Here I have BA and BC, right? So these two classes is having M2 method, right? So I'm trying to call this M2 method. So in this case, which M2 method will get executed? Whether M2 in BC or M2 in BA?
M2 and BC.
For sure, right? Because there is no point of BA here because we have not created the object of BA. So we created the object of BC. For sure, it should be executing the method in BC. Okay, inside a method of BC class. Similarly, I can create an object of BA, ABC1, and if I call M2, which method gets executed? It's going to execute the method in the BA. So I'll be getting both outputs. BC and BA classes, right? And assume that I have a method called M3 in my BC. So inside M3 of my BC class. So if I run this, so from now, if for example, if I'm trying to call abc.m3, whether it will work or it will not work. If you are not clear with my question, I'll come here. You have ABC which has M2 and M3. You have BC where you just overridden M1, M2, which is mandatory. But as a child can have an extra methods, right? You have an extra method M3 which is not present in your ABC. You see, the M3 is not present in ABC, right? So if I create an ABC or BC object, for sure I can able to call this M3, right? Now my question is, I have an M3 method which I need to be gets execute, which I just want to be execute, right? But this M3 is not available in ABC, your parent. Now, what is happening? Your child object is getting hold by your parent, right? Here this is also child object is getting hold by your parent. So if I call bc.m2, I can able to call because m2 method is present in abc. Similarly, my question, can I call abc.m2 m3 which is not present in abc, m3 which is not present in abc? Can I call that method when I have
Yes,
this
we
parent
can call
reference?
it
Okay, you're telling,
abc.m3.
yeah, abc.m3, you're telling it should work.
Yeah. The class is
It will,
ABC only, right, Surya?
sorry.
The class is ABC only, right? M3 method is written in ABC, right?
No, it was written in BC. That's what I'm telling. It was not
Okay.
written in ABC.
It
See,
should throw
Then,
an error.
you see, there is M3 method which is present in BC, but it is not present in ABC.
okay. Then, yeah, it will execute in BC only.
Mm.
It,
It will not allow. You cannot hold. It will throw an error. Why? Because this is undefined for ABC. So you do not have a B3 in that
Okay.
ABC class. So why I'm calling this as a dynamic binding or like this has nothing but a static binding, as I told, right? So there are two operations generally. So it's a compiler error. You can see it's a compiler error. Okay, generally you see there are two things in your Java class execution, right? One is compile and one is run, right? What is compile time? If whatever that you write, so it is in Eclipse is by default it's going to do a compiling, right? If you have used older version like with in IDs or command tool, what happens when you write a code, it will not show an error. What you need to do, you need to write a Java C command and which will do the compile. So your compiler is going to check any compiling errors. It means the syntax errors or not. For example, if I remove this semicolon, like for flower basis, it will throw an error, right? If I remove this semicolon, it is going to throw an error, right? So because these are nothing but my compiler errors, your compiler is going to check, right? But what is runtime errors? While executing the code, you will get an null pointer exception, or there are like different runtime things, right? So your compiler will not show an error, but after executing, you will get an exception. So that is nothing but your runtime errors, right? So here in this case, when I call it as a static binding, so you just divide it into two cases like LHS and RHS kind. Okay, so if while this is nothing but your when I call this, I'm just uncommenting it. Why I'm just explaining why I call that as a static binding. So this part is nothing but your left hand side LHS. You consider this part, you consider it as RHS. Where you created an object, you consider it as RHS. And I can say this part is like your compile time happens. And this RHS is happens at your runtime. You understand this very like clear once I explain the topics. Okay. So I created a BC object, and what I'm trying to do, I'm just calling bc.m2, right? So whenever I call bc.m2, right? So what happens? My compiler is going to check whether this m2 method is present in the BC class or not. Is this m2 method present? Yes, it's present. So it is not going to throw any error, right? Okay. And for which object you are creating? You are creating an object of BC, right? So what happens? It is going to execute the method for which you created an object. So at compile time, what happens? Your compiler is going to tie to a method called m2 which is present in the BC, right? At runtime, what happens? It is executes the method that you for which you created an object, that is the BC, right? Is there any change in the compile time to runtime? If you are getting confused, I can explain with some chat. Okay, this static binding and dynamic binding is like very important concept in Java. I have a class that ABC, right? And I have a method called void m2. Okay, I have a class some BC, it implements this ABC. Okay, and do not, I'm just main method, don't worry about it. I'm just explaining the syntax. So BC also have an m2 method. Okay, now I have a class test and the main method, and I created which object? I created a BC object. BC equals to new BC, and I'm just calling BC dot m2. Okay, what I told, there are two things. One is that your I was very bad at drawing, so this part is nothing but you consider it as LHS, and this part you consider it as RHS, right? So this is at compile time. I'm just specifying COM for compile time. I'm just specifying this is at runtime. There are two things your Java will happen: compile and run. So what you're calling when you call bc.m2, so what your compiler is going to see, what is my left side reference? So what is your LHS? Your BC. So during the compiling, what compiler is going to do is nothing but it is going to bind your it is going to bind to the method for which you are having here. Like your m2 is present in BC, your m2 is present in ABC, but your compiler is going to bind to the m2 method present in BC, right? Because it is having it whatever it has at the right side, right? So this is at compile time. Okay, and at runtime what happens? It is going to execute the method which is at right side. So what is the thing which is present at right side? BC, right? So it is going to execute the m2 method which is present in BC. Okay, this is at runtime, right? So at compile time, your compiler is going to bind to the method which is present at left side. So bc.m2, it is going to present bind to the m2 method in BC. Why? Because at left side you have BC, and runtime is at right side. So your compiler is going to execute the method like for which you created an object, for which you created an object for BC you created, right? So this is at runtime. So you see there is any change from compile to runtime? No, whatever the method that your compiler got binded, the same method got executed at runtime. So that is the reason I call this as nothing but your static binding. There is no change in that. So if I tell you the dynamic binding, you get more understanding and on better on this. Okay, are you clear with this and just why I'm calling this as static binding?
Yes, we are clear.
Okay, for example, I'm creating an ABC object, and sorry, ABC as a reference, and I'm just creating an object of BC, right? And if I call ABC reference variable dot m2. Okay, can someone tell now this is at compile time and this is at runtime, right side. So can someone tell while executing this code, your compiler will be looking the M2 method in BC or it is going to look this M2 method in ABC?
BC.
Please, I'm asking at compile time.
Compile time.
In ABC.
ABC, right? So please just a simple thing, right? It is like two, you can divide this into two parts. This left side is nothing but your compiler, compile thing, and this part is nothing but your runtime. Okay, when I call this abc.m2, your compiler is going to look at this left side. So it is going to see is M2 method present in ABC or not, and it is going to bind to the M2 method which is present in your ABC. Right, it is going to bind to the M2 method in ABC. So this happens at your compile time. Okay, but runtime for which for at runtime which object you created? BC object, right? So at runtime it is going to execute bind to the method which is present in the BC, right? And this is at runtime. So there is a change from compile time to runtime. At compile time, it binded to the M2 method it present in ABC. At runtime, it was executed the M2 method in BC. So this is at runtime. So there is a change from compile time to runtime, and you can call this as dynamic binding or runtime polymorphism. Dynamic binding. Why I'm calling it as dynamic binding? Because at compile time it is going to bind to the one method, right? But at runtime for which you created an object, for that method it is going to execute. So that is the reason you call this as dynamic binding. Is it clear or confusing?
It's clear now.
Okay, just please go through this once you get any, let me know, because it clear.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so generally you can use this in real time also. I would have I would have told you with the real example only, but I just thought of telling you with the normal example first. So Even you can just take this instead of ABC, you can just take an RBI. Okay, so instead of M1, okay, otherwise I'll just create a class called interface example. I'm just taking RBI, right? So you think, I think you know what is an RBI, right? Reserve Bank of India, right? In India, for every bank, it is going to have the certain rules and guidelines which every bank need to be followed, right? So it is going to, what is a generally an abstract method or interface? Why you generally use it in real scenarios is nothing, but interface is something. It is going to do some regulations, uh, some set of methods, right? So these methods need to be overridden by, for sure, all the classes which implements this interface. So for example, RPA is assume that it is a regulation. It is something that it will give some abstract methods, but it will not do that implementation. So what can be when you take a bank, so what are the mandatory actions a bank should happen in India? For example, I have just trying to open a bank, right? So what are the mandatory things that I should be keeping it when I am opening a bank? It's a general scenario. Don't worry about a Java, nothing. I'm just asking a general question. I just want to open a bank, or I just want to register for a bank thing. So you have many banks, right? Andhra Bank or Access Bank, ICIC. Similarly, I just want to create some X bank. Create in the sense I just want to own an X bank, right? So what are the things that I should do? What are the things in the sense what are the main operations of a bank that I should be keeping it? You generally do it, right?
First of all, for bank, if, for bank
Don't go
opening, we need to have, yeah,
mm, don't go it in high level. So don't opening or something, but I want to have a bank. I just want to create a bank. My question is, what are the mandatory actions that I should keep in a bank if I open a
customers.
bank? Customers, but the operations I'm telling, I cannot. So, for example, I'll open a bank and I'll tell that I'll not have a functionality to deposit. Is it a kind of bank? I'll tell that I am opening a bank, and my in my bank I will not allow you to deposit money. Then is it a bank that you call? No, right? So the
No.
main purpose of a bank is nothing but it should have the deposit operation, right? So it should allow the deposits to happen, right? I think you're getting, right? So this is nothing but your mandatory action. So if I am opening a bank, I should have a deposit functionality. Without deposit functionality, I am not authorized to open the bank. Without deposit functionality, I cannot, right? Similarly, what are the other operations it should have? Many, but few simple one,
Giving
like a deposit,
loans.
loans, that is also the thing. But what if I tell I'll open a bank and I'll do only deposits? You agree? No, right? If I do a deposit, I should allow you to do withdraw, right? So without, if you was only deposit law, it's like only not taking the money, right? Your bank will allow withdraw also. So that is also the mandatory, like loans, whatever you told is the mandatory things. But I'm just taking as of now withdraw and deposits.
Opening account and closing account will be there. Yeah.
Yes, like opening an account, that all that. But I'm just talking in scenario on operation actually. So
Operation
deposit is in a
side,
function,
no,
functionality.
generally, yeah,
Mm.
functionality wise, I can say that how much amount is available in bank opening account.
Yes, opening like that. I'm just talking like the functionality. Like a bank should have deposit functionality, a bank should have withdraw functionality, right?
Correct.
I'm not going in a high level and in a generic way, right? Whatever the loans that you told for a bank should give that loans. But as of now, I'm just taking this only to operations, right?
Okay.
So it means if I'm just taking, if anyone wants to establish a bank, they should have this operations. Method is nothing but you need to have certain operation, right? So assume that I have a class called HDFC. This one kind of bank which implements this RBI, implements this interface RBI. Okay. So you see, it will force when you do the moment that you do that implementation, it will force you to add that abstract methods. As an HDFC, it can have a number of functionalities. It can create loans, or it can create other things, right? A bank will do a lot of other operations, but it should have this deposit and withdraw operations for mandatory. So that is the reason it is forcing you to do that implementation. So, and as a HDFC bank, I should have the deposit. So the logic your RBI will not tell, right? You can have the different kind of logic in the sense, per a deposit, I'll just in a day I'll have a deposit of 10,000 only. Like the different banks have different logic for the deposit, and for the withdrawal also, the different banks will have different logic for that, right? So your RBI will not force for that logic, but it will force that you should have the functionality, right? So I may have a functionality like I'll have a deposit of daily. So only 10,000 as a deposit, right? 10,000 deposit daily. So similarly, withdraw, like I'll just have a withdraw of 5,000. I'm just taking examples, right? Just okay. So this is what the your HDFC allow, right? Similarly, I have an access, so which implements your interface RBI. So here, what are that mandatory operations? The same, right? Withdraw. If whatever the bank, it is in 100 banks that you establish with implements, for sure, it should have these two functionalities. But the logic may be different, right? Here, it has a deposit of the daily 10,000 only. In case of in HDFC, okay, deposit and withdraw daily. Okay, but here it may have different logic, right? Your access may have different logic. It can have a deposit of 10,000, 20,000, right? Like that. So the logic, it can have a difference. Withdraw also it can have that, but implementation of this is mandatory, right? So that is the reason you will have this interface. And just telling it, like trying to tell you it in the real time examples, like where you will able to understand why you need interface and why you need this abstract class, because you may get a doubt, right? So why you need to declare a method as an abstract class, why you need to do that implementation and do the logic in another method. You can do that logic in the same method, right? But the concept of abstraction, sorry, the concept of interface is nothing but one of the like oops concept in Java, that is like you will just show that functionality. It will sorry, you just show that what you need, but the actual functionality you will be hiding it. And here it is like interface is generally like an what I mean to say, it's like regulation. Whatever the class that implements should follow that. Okay. So that's it today. Okay, if no queries, we'll just continue tomorrow. Like tomorrow, in the sense, tomorrow it's a Saturday, right? So please go through the whatever all the recordings, and please make your hands on that day. So we'll discuss more about exception handling, and just we'll try to in upcoming classes we'll see to connect with the servlets and basics of servlets and how you connect to the database. These things we'll be seeing it. If no queries, we'll wind up the session. Hi all. Fine, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mm.